not too long ago, I made a post about setting boundaries, and I want to expound on that because that was a popular post. A lot of people said it was helpful for them. A lot of people said that they got a lot out of it. So I want to kind of go a little bit more into depth into that and where I was at that particular point in my life and why I thought it was so important and so necessary at that particular point to set boundaries. Okay, so let's just kind of jump right into it. So I made a post about the 12 things that I did to start boundaries, to set boundaries. And so at that particular point in my life, I was kind of at a crossroads. I was at a point where, you know, I was going through a transitional period and I was realizing that I needed to make a change. And so I started to, you know, kind of look around and kind of look at some of the people that I had relationships with. And I kind of started to realize, you know, out of all the people that I have relationships with, I feel like there's some imbalance in my life. There's imbalance in my relationships. And I'm kind of the go-to person for everyone. People always come to me and, you know, it's like I'm misdependable, I'm misreliable. And so I said, you know, I really can't do that for other people. It's not really reciprocated. And so I said, I need to set some boundaries so that there's more peace in my life, there's more balance, and so that, you know, I have, you know, just greater relationships all around. So I started to, you know, just take a look around and think about some of the different people that I had in my life. And I said, you know, people kind of, you know, think of me as their go-to person, right? They think of me as, you know, when I want something done, reach out to Dina, she's going to get it done. And I realized that I kind of was giving up too much of my time and attention to other people. So one of the first things that I did and one of the first boundaries that I set was to stop replying to text messages and emails right away. I started letting those text messages and emails sit there for about 4 hours before I responded to them, right? Because I'm the type of person that likes to take care of everything. I like for things to be done right away. And I said, you know what? I need to let those things sit there so that I'm not jumping into place for other people. And so people aren't always expecting me to be there right away for them all the time. So I started letting those text messages and emails sit there. So if someone sent me a message at 9 o'clock in the morning, I let it sit till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If somebody sent me something at 2 o'clock, I let that sit until 6. And at first, you know, it was very difficult for me, right? Because I'm the type of person, I like to open it, I like to take care of it, and I like to get things done. But then I said, you know, I need to start, you know, setting that boundary so that we kind of change that expectation, right? I'm reintroducing people to me. Here's the new Dina, here's the new person. So here are some of the boundaries that I want to put into place. So one of the things that I want to encourage you to do is when someone is reaching out to you with, you know, some request, whether it's a phone call, an email, or a text message, let that information sit there for a certain amount of time. It doesn't have to be 4 hours. Of course, you can choose whatever's going to work for you and let it sit there. And get into the habit of not replying to people all the time, and that readily sets a boundary. Okay. The second thing that I did was I stopped letting other people come to me with the same thing over and over and over when they have not implemented the advice that I've already given them. And that's a big one, right? Because with me being a career coach and a life coach, you know, and even just in my personal life, you know, people would come to me a lot and they would come to me with the same thing. Right. And then I would have to ask them and I would say, you know, okay, the last time we talked, what was it that I asked you to do? What were some of the tips and some of the tools that I gave you to implement whenever you find yourself in various situations? And they couldn't tell me. Or I would say, you know, have you implemented the things that I asked you to do the last time? And they would say no. They would say, no, I didn't get around to it. They would start giving me excuses. And I had to just very adamantly tell them, you can't come back to me with the same thing again until you implement the things that I've already given you, right? And I had to say that very confidently. And it was difficult at first because, you know, I'm someone that I like to help other people. I like to be there for other people. I like to, help people work through their problems because I'm a problem solver. But what I realized was a lot of people don't want help. They just want someone to vent to. They want someone to listen to their problems. They want someone, you know, that's just going to listen, and they really don't want a solution. But I'm a solution person, right? I'm a problem solver. And so once I started to realize people really don't want help, I stopped letting them take up my time. And I had to say, whenever you get to the point where you're ready to implement a solution, then come back to me again, okay? So secondly, stop letting people come to you with things repeatedly when they haven't taken your advice the first time. The third thing that I put on my list of things I did to implement boundaries was I started telling people no without an explanation. And this is something that was, a big thing. I had to start telling people no, right? Because people would ask me, to do things. They would make requests of me all the time. And I ended up having to tell them no without an explanation. Because the more and more somebody continues to ask you something, or you tell them no and you keep giving them an explanation, the more and more they're going to keep asking, and they're going to think that, eventually if I keep asking her or if I keep asking him, I'm going to kind of water them down, and I can, finally get them to do what I want them to do. So I had to just start telling people no. I had to reply back to the message or reply back to the email, and I had to just say, no, I won't be able to come this weekend. No, I won't be able to do that, right? And I didn't give an explanation. And even whenever they asked me, why can't you come? Why can't you be available? I didn't respond, right? I just start telling people no, didn't give them an explanation, and I just left it at that. Okay, so welcome to the people who are just joining. Thank you so much for joining me. I am talking about setting boundaries with confidence, and I'm talking about some of the things that I started doing several years ago in my life, where I found myself at a crossroads where I needed to reinvent myself. I needed to show up differently, and I need to have some balance in my life. So I was talking about a post that I did when I was talking about some of the things that I implemented. And I've already talked about letting text messages and emails sit for 4 hours. I've talked about telling people no without an explanation. And I've talked about not letting people repeatedly come to me with the same thing when I've already given them some advice and they haven't implemented, right? So those are some of the things that we're talking about as it relates to setting boundaries. And one of the other things that I did was I started only accepting phone calls from a certain time to a certain time, right? I gave people a certain window to be able to have access to me, because it had gotten to the point where people, was thinking I was available 24/7. They were thinking I was available around the clock. So they were calling me at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, and I could barely get up and get dressed and go to work. I was actually late getting to work because I'm stopping and talking to people on the phone who wants to tell me something she forgot to tell me the night before. Or I had, people emailing me and texting me, calling me on my way to work. And, that's my me time, right? That's the time that I have before I actually get to work and get logged on and start doing all those things. I want those last couple of moments to just kind of get myself, together to go in for whatever I was going to be facing in the office. So I had to stop people from doing that. And I had to say to myself, I'm only going to have phone calls from 9 o'clock a.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. right? And even whenever I got to work, I had to tell my coworkers, the first hour when I get to work, I like to just, check my email. I like to kind of order my day. I like to eat my breakfast, at my desk by myself. I had to just let them know, put those boundaries in place, right? And once I started doing that, I started realizing, I started coming into work much more peaceful. I wasn't already kind of bogged down with everybody else's stuff. I was able to come in and start my morning off on a higher note, and I definitely could see the difference. And then on the back end, I started not allowing people to call me after 9 p.m., right? So from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., there was a 12-hour window where I accepted phone calls from people. And after 9 o'clock at night, I just turned my ringer off and I said, no more calls for the day. And if there's anything that, someone needed, it would have to wait till tomorrow. Okay. Because again, when you are that go-to person and when you're someone who people, always expect to answer the phone, they always expect you to, reply back, then sometimes they don't know how to wait. They don't think that there is a boundary. So I had to start putting those boundaries in place and letting people know, yeah, there are certain times you can have access to me and I'll be more than happy to help. And then there are some times that I'm just not going to be available. Okay. And then one of the other things that I did was I stopped repeating myself. And this was a big one, this was a big one because sometimes, people can make you feel guilty, whenever you say something to them and they're not able to kind of go back and forth with you and have a conversation. They'll say, why are you being mean to me? Or why are you not replying to me? Why are you not, answering the phone? And it's like, because I've already told you I'm not going to be able to do that. Or I told you what I was going to be able to do. You wanted me to come on Saturday and stay all day. I can't stay all day, but maybe I have 2 or 3 hours, that I can show up. And so just kind of say what I mean and mean what I say the first time and not let people, have me going back and forth because, every single time you go back and forth, you really lose, right? You're kind of giving away some of your power every single time you go back and forth with someone. So I stopped doing that, and I stopped repeating myself. So that was something else that I put into place, right? And then when it came to, my work situation, I was at a situation where a lot of people were coming to me all the time, asking me questions, asking for advice, and by me being a career coach, I had appointments. So people were constantly coming in and out of my office all the time. And sometimes it was a little bit of a distraction, and I wasn't really able to get my work done sometimes. So what I started doing was I started closing my door. I started closing my door more frequently, not all the time, right? Because then, you would be seen as, antisocial, or you're not a team player. But I started closing my door a little bit more at work, just to kind of set that precedence that whenever Dina's door is closed, that means she's working on something. That means she's busy, and really try not to, interrupt her. So of course, depending on what your work situation is, you may or may not be able to do that, right? Because you may be a manager, and maybe you have people coming to you all day. But I just want to encourage you, if you need to set a boundary in the workplace, figure out what is something that you can do to kind of stop people from, interrupting you unnecessarily. How can you set a boundary, in the workplace? So I want you to, kind of think about that, and think about what are some of the things that you can do. And then another thing that I did when I was on my journey to self-awareness, and I start putting these boundaries in place, I stopped letting people show up late, stopped letting people be tardy whenever they had meetings with me. And I started requiring people to have the level of commitment that I had, right? Because anytime you're working with me, you're getting someone that's committed. You're getting someone that's going to be on time. You're getting someone that is going to have done her homework. And I'm ready with my laptop, my paper, my pen. I'm ready to go. And then you're not ready. Oh, I forgot. Or, you are constantly showing up late, constantly pushing the meetings back, or constantly canceling. And that's not fair to me. And that's not being respectful of me. So I had to start having conversations and just, let people know that whenever I'm working with someone, this is the way I like to work. And one of the things that I would say is, anytime I'm going to be working with someone and I'm forming a partnership with someone, there's a certain way that I like to work. And I'm hoping this is going to be a long-term partnership between you and myself. And one of the things that's very important to me is time, being on time, and keeping your time commitment. And I just, I said, we're both very busy. My schedule and my calendar is busy, just like I know yours is. And so I want to make sure that we are respectful of each other, we're respectful of our time, and we're respectful of each other's calendars. And once I started putting that into place, I didn't have any more issues. And sometimes, even before it became an issue, I just said it up front, let's have a conversation about how we like to work, and let's kind of talk about, how we can get the best results from each other. And I always just said time commitment was something that was very important to me. So once I start speaking up, and once I start saying that, then people stopped taking my time for granted. They started, stop thinking that they can just show up whenever, they can just cancel, and all those type of things. I started making sure I set those boundaries in place. Okay, the next thing that I did was I started requiring people to carry their own load. So I already mentioned before that, I was someone that was, dependable. I was someone that was always doing things for other people. Oh, I can do that for you. I'm someone that I'll look it up, or I'll be the person to do this or do that. And I started realizing the more I started doing other things, other people was like, okay, well, Dina's going to do it. So then why do I have to do it? Okay. So I just started, saying, we're a team, and we have a partnership where everyone has a certain role and responsibility. So I really want to talk about that, and I want to make sure that we implement that. And just, when you're setting these boundaries, you can be very professional about it, very polite about it, but just make sure you're clear and you're confident in what you're saying to people. Because a lot of times, if you'll show up that way, or if you kind of reiterate certain things in that way, people will respect it. People will know that, you're serious about it, and they will oblige you. So I just started letting people know that I need them to carry their own weight, because I didn't want to be the one to do all the work, and it started working out well for me. Okay, and then one other thing that I did when it comes to setting boundaries is I stopped letting other people put their expectations on me. stop letting them put me in a box and tell me, what they're expecting from me to do and how they want me to be, how they want me to walk and talk and so forth. I just started saying, I respect what you have to say. I respect your opinion, but, I am my own person. And this is the way I want to show up. And this is what I want to do, And again, going back to what I said before, not repeating, just stating it. This is the way it is. This is the way I like to work. This is who I am. And, if we're going to have a partnership or be in any kind of relationship, this is the way that it has to be. So, these things can be very difficult to implement at first. It may feel very uncomfortable, but the more and more, you do these things, the more you go along your self-awareness journey and your self-love journey, then you will stop allowing people to put these things on you, right? You will be more mindful, and you'll be surprised how people will respect you if you just say up front, these are the expectations, these are the boundaries, and this is what I'm going to require from you, okay? And then one of the next couple of things that I did was block people who were toxic and who felt entitled to me and my time, and even went so far as to change my number and to change my email address, right? And this is one of the most more scarier things that I had to do, because I'd had my phone number for a very long time. And I thought, well, if I change my phone number and if I change my email address, people won't have access to me. And after some time, I realized, I said, you know what, that's exactly what I need. I need certain people to not be able to have access to me, because again, I'm reinventing myself. I'm introducing them to this brand new person, and some people won't get it. So some of the other things that I mentioned before that I tried, it didn't resonate with people. So I had to go that extra mile, and I had to actually just block them, just not give them access to me anymore. And again, that was something that, wasn't comfortable for me. And, when you are setting boundaries for someone who's used to having this access to you, they're going to try to put it back on you. They're going to play the victim. They're going to try to make you feel guilty for standing up and for setting a certain boundary for yourself. They're going to try to make you feel that. But I want to encourage you to just keep going. Know that you are doing something that is healthy for you, and your health is the most important thing. You want to make sure that you're doing whatever it is you need to do to make sure you're setting the appropriate boundaries and you are staying healthy for yourself. Okay. And then the last thing that I listed when I made this post a couple of weeks ago is I just said, stop allowing everybody to have access to me. Right? Because everybody just can't be in that intimate space. Everybody can't be close to you. Everybody can't call you. Everybody can't come over your house. Everyone is not going to be able to go have dinner with you and things like that. I just kind of learned to, elevate and just, say that it's nothing personal, but certain people, can have access to me and certain people can't. So these are some of the things that I put on my post a couple of weeks ago that really resonated with people. And I wanted to just come on and just kind of talk about those things. And I wanted to encourage you to, start setting boundaries in your life wherever, you need to. And you don't have to use this exact list that I had. You may want to tweak a couple of them, because maybe some of them aren't applicable to you, and maybe some of them really aren't an issue for you.